welcome to Inequations with Qubits Education. In this mini lecture, you will solve inequalities to find values for x. So, even though we're solving inequalities, we call them inequations because they are written like equations. So, first of all, I'm going to recap an equation with you before we go on to inequalities or inequations. So remember we have 2x, when we solve an equation, as an example, we have 2x plus 5 equals 23. Now, when we solve an equation, I hope you can remember from the last couple of lessons, you need to think about what's happening to x. So here we have x, and it's being multiplied by 2. 2x means x times 2. And then we're going to add 5, which gives us an answer of 23. Now, when we want to find out what x is, we go backwards. So we take our 23, and we do the opposite of what's happening. So we subtract 5. Okay? 23 take away 5 is 18. We need to divide by 2 because we've times by 2 here, so we need to divide by 2 here. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So that means that x is 9. Now in this case we've used an equal sign, so x is equal to 9. However, when we look at inequalities, x isn't always equal to 9. It is either greater than or less than, or greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So, an inequality tells you about two quantities that are unequal, which sounds very random, but you can solve an inequality like you can solve an equation. So here, for example, 3x plus 2 is greater than 5. Now, don't ever write an equals sign, but if you're really struggling, pretend that it is an equals sign, okay? And if you pretend it's an equals sign, we can solve this in pretty much the same way. Now, instead of writing it out like I did on the previous slide as x times 3 plus 2 is greater than 5, I'm just going to do the opposite whilst it's here in front of me. So, normally I'd write this out. So if I go back to my equation example, usually I would write it out like this. X times 2 plus 5 is 23 and work backwards, okay? Now, there is this other way of doing things, which I'll show you now, is it's exactly the same way, we're just doing it a bit quicker. So instead of this being a greater than sign, if you want to pretend it's an equal sign, don't ever write that it's an equal sign, but you can, if you are really struggling, think of it as an equal sign, but only until right at the end, and then I want you to think of it as a greater than sign again, and I'll explain why in a second. So we have 3x plus 2 is 5, or greater than 5. So I'm just going to take away 2. Okay, so that's normally what I would do. I would subtract this number. So I'm going to take away 2. Now if I take away 2, that gives me 3x is greater than 3 because I've took away 2 here, which means it comes away here as well. So 3x is greater than 3. Now here this is x times 3, so the only other thing I need to do is divide by 3, which means x is greater than 1. So divide by 3 there and divide by 3 there. Or in effect just move that over by dividing by 3. So x is greater than 1. That means that x could be anything from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and so on, because it's telling me here that x is any number that is bigger than 1. That's what that means. So that's why I don't want you to actually change it to an equal sign, because it's not equal to 1, it's bigger than it. Okay? So on a number line we would write that like this. We would circle where 1 is and draw an arrow all the way to the end of the line, because it's greater than 1. So, I'm just going to go through showing these quickly on a number line in case, we've obviously already done a lecture on this or a video on this, but just a quick recap. So, you can show any of these solutions on a number line. So here we have x is greater than 4, and if you can remember from the last video, that means that we circle 4 and draw an arrow to anything that would be bigger than 4. But we don't colour in this circle, okay? Now the difference is, here we have coloured in the circle, and that's because x is greater than or equal to 5. So when it's equal to 1, we colour it in and then draw the arrow, okay? This one is x is less than 6. So we circle 6 and we draw the arrow the other way because it's less than 6. It can be anything less than 6. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, minus 1, minus 2, and so on. Now this one, here we have to circle 2, but we don't colour it in because it's just a less than. And we have to circle 7, but we do colour it in because it's an equal to, and then we draw our line between the two constraints. Okay, so what I'd like you to do then is pause the video and have a go at these questions. Now the first one, what I would like you to do is list the set of numbers. I've used the word integers here because that's what that means numbers that satisfy each inequality. Now I'll give you the first one. So this one is saying that anything between -2 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 1. And that just means that any number between -2 and 1, but you must be careful because it doesn't include -2, look. Okay, so it doesn't include -2, so it's -1, 0, and then this does include 1, so I can use 1 there. So pause the video and have a go at those, and then on this one, I would like you to put them on a number line. Okay, if you don't have the paper or pen or you know the motivation to draw all these number lines, you know, just do a quick sketch of them, and obviously I'll put up the answers. So pause the video and have a go at both of those sets of questions. Okay, if you pause the video, you have here anything between -2 and 4. So it does include -2, but it doesn't include 4. So we have -2 there, but we don't have 4 here. We only have up to 3. And then here it doesn't include -3 or 3, so it's anything from -2 to 2. Here it includes -3, but doesn't include 2, so -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. Here it doesn't include -1, but it does include 4. Okay, and these would be your numbers. And here it includes -2 and 4, so they're both in there. Okay, so all you were doing there was writing down the numbers that went in between these two constraints. So here, represent the following inequalities on a number line. So if you've already had a go at that, x is less than or equal to 3, so we colour in 3 and draw our arrow. X is greater than 2, but we don't colour in 2 because it's not equal to, and draw our arrow. X is less than 0. -2 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 1. -2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 4. -3 is less than x, which is less than 3. -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 2. -1 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 4. And -2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 4. Okay, so if you got all those right, well done. If not, rewatch the videos, the one on inequalities on a number line, and as well as this one, to make sure you understand. Now then, we're just going to go through some examples of solving inequalities that are obviously like equations, and I'll just give you some examples. So first of all, we have this one here. Now this one here is a tricky one, so I'm going to explain that one in a bit more detail in a second. But basically what you do is you think of it like when we did our equations lesson, you think of this like an equation, but we feel like there's an equal sign in the middle. So you remember when we did our barrier and we moved everything across, that would be what you're going to do here. So this is pretend that this is the equal sign. So what I want to try and do is get all the numbers on one side and all the letters on the other. So the first thing I'm going to do is -2x, because I want to move this 2x over here to where this 4x is. So that ends up being 2x here, because I have -2x, -5, which is greater than or equal to 11, because 11 would be on its own now that I've moved the 2 over. Okay, the next thing I need to do is move this 5, because remember this is like the equal sign, it's like the barrier, and I need to move the 5 over. So in order to move the 5 over, I'm going to add 5. Okay, so that gives me 2x is greater than or equal to 16. So my 5 has just moved over to here. And finally, in order to get x on its own, I need to divide by 2, which gives me x is greater than or equal to 8. So you have solved your equation there, your inequality. But do not write an equals sign. Okay, so then this one, so yes, we can write that on a number line as well. X is greater than or equal to 8, so we need to colour in the circle. Okay, so we now have 16 is greater than -4x. So in order to work out that answer, all we've got is this 4 times x. So I'm going to divide by 4 to get rid of the 4 from the x. And when I divide by 4, it means I kind of move over to this side. So 16 divided by 4 is 4, and then we're left with a minus x on this side. Now all we need to do is change the sign. So we swap them over and we say that minus 4 is less than x. Okay, we can't say, well, we can say 4 is greater than minus x, which obviously means that minus 4 is less than x. So we have to be careful to move that around if there's a negative here. Okay, now on this one we have 7 minus 2x is less than or equal to 3. So, So also x is greater than minus 4. We can write it like that, and we can write it on a number line. So if x is greater than minus 4, we just circle the minus 4 and we draw our arrow because it's greater than. Okay, so here we have 7 minus 2x is less than or equal to 3. So again, we need to make sure all the numbers are on one side and all the x values are on another. So the first thing I want to do is move this 7 over here. So I'm going to minus the 7 because this is a positive. That leaves me with minus 2x is less than or equal to minus 4. Okay, because 3 minus 7 is minus 4. And then we're going to divide by minus 2. Now I wouldn't have done this divide by 2 here, sorry. I wanted to do divide by minus 2. However, let's have a look at what it looks like. Now, if I'd have divided by minus 2, this would have left me with x is less than or equal to 4, which we will get in the end. Less than or equal to 2. So minus x is less than or equal to minus 2 because we haven't divided by minus 2, we've just divided by 2, which means 2 divided by 2 is 1, or x on its own, and the minus is still there, so we have to leave it. And here, minus 4 divided by 2 is minus 2, so we have to leave the minus. You can divide by minus 2, which would have made these two not minus. So we'll just change the sign. X is greater than or equal to 2, and we can pop that on our number line, and you must colour in the circle. Okay, so the only other one that I need to go through with you is something a bit like this. So x is less than 2, x minus 1 in brackets, which is less than or equal to 7. So when we have something like this, we need to treat it as two separate inequalities as to where these signs are. So what we're going to do is spread them out. We've got x is less than 2 and then x minus 1. And then you've got 2x minus 1 is less than or equal to 7. So this part in the middle is used for both inequalities. Okay, and then we solve them, we need to expand them first. So if we expand this, we've got x is less than 2x minus 2, so 2 times x is 2x and 2 times minus 1 is minus 2. And we're going to solve them as two separate equations. So now I'm going to subtract x, giving me 0 is less than x minus 2, and then I'm going to add 2 to the other side, giving me 2 is less than x. So here 2 is less than x. Now let's move to the other side and expand this one. So we should have 2x minus 2 is less than or equal to 7. Okay, I'm going to add 2 so that I can move this 2 over to this 7, giving me 2x is less than or equal to 9. And then we divide by 2, giving us x is less than or equal to 4.5 or 4.5. Then what we need to do is bring them back together. So we now have the x in the right place for each of these, okay, which one's at the end and one's at the beginning. So 2 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 4.5. Okay, they are tricky, so if you need to re-watch that, please do. Okay, all I want you to do now is pause the video and have a go at the questions that you think you can do. Obviously, these ones are bordering on the higher tier, so as long as you can do the first 6 as well, first 9 as well as maybe these green ones, that's fantastic. Don't panic. I wouldn't even worry if you can't do past the grey questions, okay, because they are quite tricky. Okay, if you pause the video and had a go, here are your answers. Okay, so I hope you got all those right. Feel free to pause the video and go through the questions. Okay, well done, and thank you very much for using Cubit Education. I hope that was very helpful, and I look forward to seeing you next time.